Welcome, everyone. I'm Brandy Cowan, editor of Talent Canada, and I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today as we showcase real world use cases, governance considerations, and talent implications to help organizations deploy AI responsibly, strategically, and in ways that align with their culture. Before we kick things off, I have a couple of housekeeping items to mention. You, the audience, are in listen only mode this afternoon. We can't see or hear you. However, we've left some time at the end of each session for questions. We encourage you to enter your questions in the Q&A at any time throughout the sessions today. Today's virtual summit is being recorded. Within the next few days, you'll receive a link to the recording at the same email address you used to register for the summit. Please keep an eye out for that. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker. Marcos Rezende is a senior product designer shaping human AI experiences in real production environments. He currently builds AI-driven marketing workflows at Hive and previously designed AI-powered experiences across Microsoft 365 Copilot. Welcome, Marcos. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Brandy. So let me share my screen. Let's start the presentation. All right, there we go. Today, the topic is design was AI governance. So, as you can see, my name is Marcos Rezende. And for the past 8 years, I have been designing AI experience at Microsoft, working with Copilot features, at Click, working with Insight Advisor and Auto Machine Learning, and right now at Hive, where we build marketing tools using generative AI to improve workflows. So here's one thing everywhere. Companies are not asking should we use AI, not asking anymore. The question now is why is not it working? And I don't mean technical failures. I mean it's breaking in how people actually use it, breaking trust, accountability, and adoption. So my argument today is simple. Design is how you actually govern AI. Design decides if AI becomes something people trust or some just another tool they ignore. So let's explore where AI adoption actually breaks. Let me start with real problems I see when companies roll out AI tools. The first one, uncertainty. People don't know when they should trust what the AI says versus they need to check everything themselves. These create two problems. The first, either they freeze up and don't use it, or the second, they trust it but blindly. So, and the two scenarios both are dangerous. The second one is accountability gaps. Something's gone wrong, maybe an appropriate email gets sent or bad recommendation gets made, or nobody knows who is responsible for what. What is the AI? What is the person who clicked approve? What is the manager who bought the tool? Next, inconsistency. Imagine the same prompt, different teams, and completely different results. There is no standard, no predictability. And finally, cultural resistance. People see this as just another tool to imagine that like being pushed on them from the top. They are tired, they just don't trust it, so they find other ways around it. Now, there are not technical issues by looking for that problems. We can consider like experience problems, which means design problems. So let me give a concrete example using the GitHub Copilot. It's an AI coding assistant. Early companies get adopted, saw all the four problems that I share with you all. So imagine for developers didn't know when to trust the code suggestions versus when they review every single line. That means uncertainty. When bugs made it to production, nobody knew if it was the developer failed or the AI. So that means accountability gaps. Some prompting different code bases maybe can highlight the inconsistency because we have we can identify a widely different quality across the product. And imagine for senior engineers that soy is like a treat to that experience, not a tool to adopt. Again, the cultural resistance. This is what happens when you don't design for these problems. So, okay, why does this happen? Why do traditional approaches fail with AI? Because something fundamental changed in how this system work. For decades, we've built software that was determinist. You click here, this happens. Every time the same way. The software followed rules. AI is different. AI is inferential. It doesn't follow fixed rules. It's calculated most likely answer based on probabilities. In that case, imagine this is a massive shift for anyone building products today. We're not designing static screens anymore, and we're designing behavior that changes. And this is the dangerous part. AI could sound like perfect, but be completely wrong. It can be write a report with perfect grammar and totally incorrect data. It sounds confident, but it's wrong. I call it this form versus function. The form, how it sounds, is perfect, trustworthy, right? The function, on the other hand, actually, how it actually does fails. And thus fails are quiet. You don't notice until it's too late. Think about a shift from Google search to Gemini was example. Old Google search is deterministic. You search weather Toronto and you get the same result every time. Structure predictable. Gemini is inferential. You ask, what should I wear in Toronto this week? The answer is probabilistic. You can consider weather, your preference, what people usually do on weekends. Ask the same question twice, it might emphasize different things every single time. And we went from predictable retrieval, which means anticipate, locate, recall information based on existing context, to probabilistic generation. That's the shift. So this creates what I call it AI credibility gap. I think of it in three layers: form, function, and expectation. Form is how the AI communicates. The grammar, the tone, the structure. AI is trained to sound like polished and confident. Okay? The second is function, is what it actually does, and function can be completely broken. Finally, expectation is what people believe. When something sounds like confident, people assume that must be right. So your teams need to learn something critical. Split how confident something sounds from whether it's actually true. This call it the critical thinking skill, and you have to design it into your current workflow. One real case that happened with Canada in around, I don't know the month exactly, but in 2024, their chatbot told a passage that could ask for a family emergency discount after buying a ticket. That information was incorrect and did not match the company policy. The reply sounded certain. Okay, I received the answer for the chat. The tone was professional. The grammar was clear, perfect. The message looked like reliable, yet the guidance itself was inaccurate. In court, Air Canada claimed the chatbot acted on its own, so the airline should not be held accountable. The judge, on the other hand, disagreed. The ruling confirmed that the company remains responsible for what its AI says. As you can see here on the slide, um, the chatbot was powered by a different company, the third-party connection. This shows the risk when a system communicates with authority while given a wrong information. So, how do most companies respond to AI risk? The right policy, right? Here's our 4-page 40-page like AI acceptance using policies. Read it, sign in, and you start to navigate. What's the problem here? The policy is abstract. The experience is concrete. Nobody stops in the middle of the deadline to read a PDF of 40 pages. Nobody memorizes all the pages, all the rules. And that's the reality for us. Behavior gets shaped by interface, by what's easy, what's hard, what's impossible to do in the system. If the system let me send AI-generated content straight to customers with no review step, what's happening? I'm gonna do what I'm under pressure, no matter what the policy says. So design determines behavior. And if design determines behavior, then design is governance. Example, Meta has a comprehensive 40-page AI policy. But researchers studies actual employee behavior, and they found people under deadline pressure just ignore it. One team used AI to write customer-facing content with no human review because the review process took 2 days and they needed to ship that afternoon. That means the policy exists. Behavior didn't change. Why? Because the interface made the shortcut easier than compliance. This is why policy alone doesn't work. So here's my core argument. As you can see on the bottom, design is the governance layer that actually works day by day. Here, considering the product decision shape, we can consider accountability, trust, adoption, but also different layers. The layer that you have the policy, that you can respect, have like full agreements in the company, the behavior on the first layer, and the design was a mediator, right? So that means design is the governance layer that actually works day by day. All these product decisions, what you show, what you hide, where you require someone to confirm, how you explain what the AI did, those decisions shape three things, like I shared previously: accountability, trust, and adoption. Governance becomes real when it's embedded in that experience, not shitting in a manual nobody's read. For example, in accountability, who owns the decision at each step? Trust, whether people actually use the tool or find ways around it. And finally, adoption, whether this becomes a sustainable habit or another abandoned initiative. A perfect example, Grammarly. They don't just have a policy says that be professional. They build tone detection directly into the interface. So it's an easy way, it's two paths for interaction. When you write something that might sound rush, you see the right there. This may sound accusatory. You can accept it or change it before you send. The governance happens at the moment of generation, not in some document you read during onboarding, for example, right? So design mediates between the policy, like be professional, and the actual behavior, sending, for example, sending this specific email right now. That's what I mean by design was a governance. Okay, all right, so let's get practical right now. Let me show you patterns that work in real companies. So the first pattern, call it decision ownership. At each step in your workflow, you need to ask who suggests, who confirms, who execute. Concrete example, if AI suggests a change for a regulatory document, who was the final authority to approve it? The key message here is separate suggestion from execution. AI can suggest all day long, but execution, I mean, the moment something goes live, gets sent, gets published, that needs explicitly human confirmation. This is accountability built into your system. Good example. The platform Stripe does this very well for fraud detection. The AI suggests if transactions might be fraudulent, but it never declined a payment on its own. So the system suggests a human reviewer confirm based on their judgment and extra context. Then the action execute. If a real customer gets declined by mistake, for example, there's a clear owner, the reviewer who made the final call. They had the AI input, but they decided. And that point, we have three clear stages, right? So AI suggests, human confirms, and then the system execute. Second pattern, human in the loop. This means AI suggests, human decided at critical points. How do you actually implement this? When I mean critical points, imagine like driving in a highway. First, identify high impact decisions. Think like approving a hire, publishing something that goes to the customers, approving significant spending, or driving in a scenario that you need to pay attention all the time. Then require explicit approval before the action happens, not just a generic OK button for the confirmation. Show people exactly what they are approving in a way the user is able to see it, to edit, reject it before it goes out. I mention about driver because I'm saving this example for Tesla. Tesla Autopilot is a clear example of this. The AI suggests steering and braking, but the driver has to keep their hands on the wheel, eyes on the road. The system monitors if you are paying attention of it. If you're not, something's gonna happen. The system can unblock like the the autopilot. The design forced the human checkpoint on high risk decisions. Compare the early autonomous car tests that went wrong. You can watch some videos on YouTube. What's happened? AI went straight from seeing something that taken action. Something's that means the output was like a dangerous, a problem. In other words, no human verification on critical decisions. And that's the difference. It's an autopilot, but it's kind of have some visible guardrails considering human actions and confirmation, not just a OK button to move on. Next, the third pattern, visible guardrails. That means technical and business limits built directly into the system. And how you can implement this in your company. First, validate ranges. For example, budget was to be between X and Y for your role. Imagine the second one, contextual alerts. This tone doesn't match our brand voice. Or even access restrictions. AI cannot access the HR data to write sales report. The key message here, these limits have to be visible and explaining why, right, when you read them and what's the reason behind that. Not just silent block something, explain why that limit exists and what to do next, what the expectation for the user. This turn compliance into learning, not user frustration. Good example, Salesforce. Salesforce doesn't deal with data access control. As you can see here, I'm using the example for Einstein AI. So the AI tools can only access data you have permission. If Einstein AI tries to use restricted data, you get a clear message. You don't have access to customer financial records. And the boundary is visible and the reason the same. It's explained. It's not silently enforced that in the background where you don't know what's happened. Next pattern, usable transparency. This means explain how the AI got to the recommendation. How to implement? First, show key factors. For example, this recommendation, look at historical sales, seasonality, and marketing trends. Show confidence level, high confidence versus this is estimated based on partial data, use with caution. Or show traceable sources. For example, based on Q3 2025 sales data and marketing forecast from December. Important point here, transparency doesn't mean showing all the math, all the formulas behind the model. It means giving enough business context for someone to judge if they should trust this specific output. That's the difference between a black box and an accountable system. Okay, to materialize that, let's bring a recommendation for best products. Spotify. I don't know if you get a chance to use it, but Spotify created, we call it the AI DJ. AI DJ does this really well because it's telling you why it's playing, what is playing. For example, I noticed you've listened to a lot of indie rock lately, so I thought maybe you like that, we like this song. That's usable transparency, right? So you understand the logic without needing to see the algorithm behind. Compare your with your experience watching YouTube recommendations, right? You get the videos, but it's no clear explanation why this video appeared for you. So you cannot calibrate your trust or tell the system how you can fix it. So now let me show you all the four partners working together in one product. This is something I built, call it RX Reader AI. Yeah, I created 100% vibe coding, zero storage data, and I created AI for good. Sorry, I put IA because in Portuguese, inteligência artificial, but AI for good. I mentioned Portuguese because we extend the product in three languages and English, Spanish, and Portuguese. But let me give an overall about this challenge. The reason why I created RX Reader AI. It was handwriting medical prescriptions using computer vision, ChatGPT-O. What's the problem? In Brazil, around 62% of patients cannot read their own prescription. Among elderly old adults, for example, old patients, around 70%. That means legible prescription generated by doctors kill people, and that's a reality for poor communities. So I built this with my friend, one researcher, and just the two of us to solve this issue and create a real product and tested the product across different states in Brazil. And here's how we can highlight the four design principles and products. The first one on the top, decision ownership. In our product, AI suggests what medication it thinks is writing. The pharmacist confirm and the system execute a clear separation at every step. As you can see on the bottom, human in the loop, the system never dispense automatically. Never. So even we have 99% of confidence about something, who is responsible for the decision? The pharmacist. So the pharmacist has to explicitly approve that thing. On the right corner, visible guardrails, building a pharmaceutical database. If the AI reads a dosage outside normal range, like 1000 milligrams instead 100, it immediately flags and that issue. And for example, this dosage seems unusual, high, please verify. Given like a double check is, imagine like at the daily day routine, that's crazy and have a bunch of things to check. It's like a second eye on that, right? And of course, have like the usable transparency on the left. And this is the key, not just like, say captopril was a medication showing like, I don't know, 85% confident that says captopril, not 100%, not I'm not sure, nor I'm sure. This tells you exactly how certain is it. So when it's uncertain, they say so clearly, and the governance embedded in that decision. Here's one visual example. So imagine the pharmacist upload the prescription, they analyze and give you the medication analysis. Prednisone, 90% of confidence. No 100%, 90%. It breaks down into three layers. The first layer, high confidence. The second one, moderate, and the next, low confidence. To create that, I need to use like a database, a real database, cruising with different kind of examples and how we can infer like what moments high, moderating, according like the fidelity about the analysis from generated by the image by AI. But in the end, which means transparency, usable transparency, the AI just doesn't hide behind false uncertainty. When it's unsure, it tells you. And here's the governance layer working. No data storage, no logging required. And what I said, multilingual Portuguese, English, and Spanish, because the healthcare doesn't have like language barriers. And we're piloting this Brazilian pharmacist right now, measuring real error reduction and receiving real feedback from pharmacists. And now, yeah, I share like four patterns today, but of course, we have much more. But listen, there are many more beyond, but what's the main message? It's not like save that information. What's the pattern for AI and copy and paste? Here is what you need to understand. Don't think you need to implement exactly all this four that I share with you. That's not how the things works, okay? These are just examples, best products, starting points. You need to adapt them to your organization, invent new ones, combine them in ways that fit your culture, your specific environment, your specific risks in your company. So the real question is, who do you know if any pattern is actually working? One of mine, one you create, one a vendor sells you. How do you evaluate it? So imagine that a basic checklist may be a good starting point. So I created that, we call it evaluation checklist or evaluation framework. Use this was any governance approach. For example, is decision ownership clear at each step? If something goes wrong, bad email, wrong forecast, do we know exactly who was responsible? Are there structural moments for human review, especially on high impact or high risk decisions like I shared before? Are they mandatory verification points at this journey? Are limits and guardrails visible in these workflows? Do people know when they're getting close to a line they should not cross, or do they only find out after they're crossed the line? And the next are clear paths to escalate complex cases, like imagine that each specific ad cases, and or the people get stuck trying to force a decision that's beyond their authority. Now, all this only work if this align with your culture. So here I'm bringing like the overall scenario to cover different things. The first, behavior. Behavior because design influence habits. If you make the risk shortcut easy, people will take it when they're under pressure. If you make responsible behavior just was easy, that becomes the habit. Next, the second one, incentives. Make the right thing easier than the shortcut. If reviewing AI output is slow and tedious, like boring, nobody's gonna do it on a deadline. If it's smooth and built in a normal workflow, it becomes automatically. It's better for the user to adapt. Next, accountability. Clarify ownership. And high accountability cultures explicitly approval steps make sense. In high automated cultures, maybe you need prevented guardrails. And you can add, for example, feedback after the fact works better. Depends about the level or the size of your company. And finally, feedback. Organizations had that learn need learning that learn need learning in a loops and creating that kind of movement to capture what is working, what isn't working in a systematic way. And in other words, the key insight for this slide is the system teaches more than any training ever will. We need understand by doing, understand what's the situation, what's the moment that I need providing a human input to help the AI help us in our daily routine. And a final thought. Right now, most organizations are moving for experimenting with AI to actually use an AI at a scale. That's a reality from the majority of us. And the design decision you make today about transparency, control, accountability, the culture alignment, those decisions will shape your organization AI culture for the next 5 or 10 years. So my core message here is don't let governance be like an add-on, like a widget for your company. No, make it part of the lived experience about integrating with your people in your company. Because when governance is embedded in design, responsible adoption stop being some distance goal and becomes more default daily behavior. The people can embrace it, not reject it. AI fails first in behavior, not in code. And AI and if you consider AI was a behavior, we can consider that behavior is design. And to wrap up, so I am bring here 4 takeaways. The first, design is practical governance and daily work. If not a separate department, it's how AI decisions get lived and experienced by real people. Second, behavior is shaped by experience, not policy. If you want real behavior change that last, change the experience people have with the system. The third, implement concrete and tested patterns. Instead, create a big project, starting to the minimal viable product and trying to understand and create decision ownership, review loops, visible guardrails, escalate if necessary, transparency, and ongoing feedback. And finally, align AI to cultural to embedded initiatives. Make the right behavior easy and natural. Make risk behavior hard or impossible. And the most important thing, start small, measure results, keep interacting one day at a time. AI governance is not a project you finish, it's an ongoing process of design and refinement. That's all for today. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Marcos. Really appreciate your insights into AI and how it is affecting all sorts of different aspects of our workplace and our daily lives. We do have time for a couple of questions, so if you haven't already done so, please enter your questions in the Q&A box now. We have one question from an attendee who notices they've been receiving mistakes on answers provided by ChatGPT, and they receive messages like, I'm sorry, my previous answer was wrong. Could you give us any insights in terms of the reason for that and if we should give up on ChatGPT as a trusted source?
One way is not trusting one and just one source of truth. For example, when you have like important decision, I use 3 or 4 Cloud, Gemini, ChatGPT, Perplexity to evaluate like that answer and provide an overall analysis based on my experience and my rationale. But one tip is like when you create a prompt, given like the ask, create a strong prompt. Maybe the prompt is wrong. Yeah, be more specific, specificities like, and the end of the prompt, ask the ChatGPT to be more pragmatic. For example, I'll evaluate and 3 or 4 criteria and give him points from 0 to 100 about your level of confidence. And then you can evaluate what the level or percentage you can receive depends about each one. And the best thing, and the second interaction, you can ask again, okay, elevate to 100 or or I don't know, the maximum you can do for me to elevate to 100, and you can receive like a revamped answer based on the prompt. I mean, you have the power using the prompt, rephrase the prompt, and you can provide better answers. But don't trust in one single source, of course.
Okay. We have another question here. What do you foresee the biggest challenges will be for recruiters when interviewing candidates who may be using AI to assist with their virtual interviews?
I think the big challenge here is more about authenticity, right? So more than just skills or technical soft skills, what's the person behind the screen, right? So uh, if you have the same answer for all of us, what's the difference between your and other candidates? I think the most important thing is we can use it like we can use it not just to generate answers for us. Maybe we can use before to help us to increase confidence, like to provide a smooth way to introduce our skills and create a storytelling, not just to a copy and paste behavior, because we are missing like the most important thing about us that is was individual. What's the reason I deserve that role? And if all of us we have the same pattern, who is like the difference between us, right? So I think that's my core message. We can use it, but maybe to help us plan our paths, not like just guide us, because we don't have no, 100% sure what can generate for us, right? That's my takeaway.